Show you how to make automated tests on Appium run across multiple devices. The tests are going to be running on the Jenkins server, and they're going to run on an iPad 2, an iPhone 5S, and the iPhone 6 Plus. So I've got these automated tests, and they're running on this computer. I've been out enjoying the sun and the summers here in northeastern Pennsylvania. And in the meantime, these tests have been running every day, about 3 or 4 times a day. And they're not succeeding 100%, but they are taking down screenshots. And let me see if I can get you some examples. So here's one running that's not showing any screenshots. I can just flip through a few of these. If I see one that started but then was failed or something, and didn't generate a report, I could delete that. So what we've got here is screenshots of different views of the application. So this is on the iPhone 5S, and let me see if I can see. These are pretty much all screenshots of the iPhone 5S running. I'll go down through some more builds here. These are screenshots. Now this is the app running on the iPad, and that had the double type enhancements project name. Here's one entering the metrics project name. And here's after it's entered several projects, some of them with double names and some of them with single names. And different apps have different, I named the different screenshots after the app that was being tested. This is the progress report, and that was the pro version. And then we have the project info. Again, the iPad. So it seems I have tests that ran successfully on the iPad, and then I have tests that ran successfully on the iPhone 5S. Now what I want to do is run the tests on 3 devices. So that's what I'm demonstrating in this video. So in order to do so, what I do is I open up my project here, and I'm going to go down into the source code. Actually, I'm going to go to the resources, and in here I have a JSON file for each app and configuration. So I have one running on the Badwood names JSON, and then Badwood names Pro for the actually this is Badwood names iPad JSON, and that's running on the iPad, same app on the iPad. And then I've got Goodwood names, and then I've got Goodwood names on the iPad. And then I've got the PMIS app, and then I've got the PMIS app running on the iPad, and then I've got the progress report and the progress report running on the iPad. So what I want to do is I want to add the iPhone 6 Plus to this suite of tests. So I've got 2 different machines here. I'm going to add a 3rd device. So what I'll do is I'll take the ones for the iPhone 5S, because the iPhone 5S, I'll just show you that JSON file. The iPhone 5S also works on iOS 10, and the iPhone 6 Plus also run on iOS 10. But the iPad 2 second generation runs on iOS 9. So I had to do a difference between the two. So that's what changed my approach to this and required that I have a different JSON file for each app on each configuration. So what I'm going to do is I'll just call it badwithnames 6p.json. So I'm going to create a new file. So I go through Eclipse here. Let me see if I can get this running. File, new. And I wanted to create a JSON file. And the best way to do that is just to create a file, and then when you name it a JSON file. So as I said, I'm going to do it bad with names 6p. And that'll be the 6 plus. It's not a 6s, 6 plus s, or 6s plus or anything. It's a 6 plus. And then you can rename it later, but try to remember to give it the extension when you're creating the file. And now that file is going to be a copy of the 5S version, which is right here. So I just do a Command A, Command C, copy, and Command V, paste. Now what do I have to change? And it's this, to anybody that's doing Appium, these configurations will be of interest to you. So what do we have? We have the iOS platform name, we have the platform version number, and that's the iOS version 10.3.2. Then we've got the device name. So this is the one thing that needs to change. So I'm going to change that to a 6 plus. And then the UUID has to change. Now I want to put in a 6 plus UDID, Universal Device ID. So I got to get that from Appium Desktop, unless I can get it another way. Oh, I can get it from Xcode, or I can get it from iTunes. So those are different ways you can get it, or I can get it from my Appium Desktop configuration. I'm going to go with Xcode. Well, not sure which. The one that you get from iTunes, well, I'll show you the one from iTunes. I could just fix it. It just has a couple of little problems with it, and that is that the letters are in uppercase, and you got to make them in lowercase in order to make it work. Small change. I don't think there's too many of them. Now, another way to copy these JSON files, aside from the way I just showed you, is that you can right-click on, so suppose you take this PMIS Pro JSON file, and I double-click on it to open it. You can right-click on it and do a copy, and then right-click on it again and do a paste, and then when it asks you for the file name, you can just give it the 6 plus extension, and then it'll make a copy of that file with the 6 plus JSON extension. And the changes I was making to each of these files was changing the 10.3.2 to 10.3.3, and then changing the 5S to a 6P for 6 plus. And then you can go into iTunes and find the device. You see there's 3 devices attached here, the iPhone 5S, the iPhone 6 Plus, and the iPad 2. You can identify the one device you want to work with, and then touch this icon right here, and then select the 6 Plus. And it's not immediately obvious here where to find the UDID. And you can click around in all these buttons, but you won't find it, all these different tabs and stuff. You actually have to click on this serial number, and then it changes to the UDID. And the UDID is the unique device ID. Then you can right-click on that and click on the copy key. Now you'll notice it has a mixture, well, it's all uppercase here, but when you paste this out of your clipboard, you'll notice you do a Command V to paste, and it pastes it in lowercase, which is suitable for working with Appium. So uppercase does not work, but if you do it in lowercase, it does work. So then you save that, and I've done all the different files here. I didn't actually name them 6+, I named them 6P. Okay, so now we see over here the 5S running, the automated tests. And then if I switch over to the 6+, you can actually see that it is also running some automated tests. So to continue this, what I want to do is arrange these in a way such that that's a 6+ running over there. So the way to use these JSON files, because they're not getting used yet, first I'll delete this one I just created as an example. You have to go to the Java files, and you go to like the test here that's running is the test smoke. And I'm going to, all the JSON files are listed here. Not all of them there yet, but I'm going to add some more. Then I'm going to resort them. And the reason I'm going to resort them is so that I can hit the iPhone 6 Plus, run the tests on there, and then after that's done, switch back over and run the I use the 6 Plus every day, so I want to be able to run those tests, finish them up, and then take the device and let the other tests run, or run them at night. Be able to basically control when that device is available. So in order to do so, what I'll do is I'm going to take these and put all the 6Ps up near the top. And I'm going to start the commas at the beginning of every line. Makes it easier to copy and paste. So here's another one. And then there's a good with names. And there was one for good with names regular. Here it is. That should have came first. And just to make these easier to copy, I'm going to break them up on lines. I put 2 on each line. And then I want to grab this PMAS 6. Put that before the Pro version. Then we get into the progress reports. Now what this is a jUnit 5 parameterized test. And the way it works is these are the parameters that you pass into the automated test, and as it cycles through, it executes the test, identified here as display name smoke test. At the very top here, it has, let's scroll up, has parameterized test, the annotation at parameterized test, that makes it a parameterized test. And then these are the parameters that get passed in one at a time. Each JSON file gets passed in, and then as those get passed in on each execution of the test, that's the first parameter right here known as capabilities, and it's linked to that first parameter, and then that sets a local variable here which is system set property test underscore capabilities, and then it sets that string, which represents the JSON file, to the capabilities at each iteration of the test. And then every time it executes, it pulls off a new app and device paired in these JSON files, and then executes the test on that device and that app. Project Organizer Pro, right here. Nope, messed that up. That's a little better. Okay, so now I think I've got all the iPads together. iPads. Oh, here's another one. These are the 5 S's. iPad. Okay, so all the iPads. Now, having them arranged like this, I can simply swipe down through a section of the files here and hold down the command key and hit the / key. That's not perfect because I still have this brackets that have to end up outside of that. But then if if my iPad's available, I can just hold down the command key, hit the /, uncomment those, and then it'll run the test on the iPad. Same thing if I want to run, if the i5 5S is not available, I can just comment out those. And then up here at the top, I have my 6+ identified, and I can hold down the command key and hit the / there and comment out those, and use the command / to uncomment those. So that takes care of the smoke test. Now, this obviously is easy. From here, I can just copy this whole section. Actually, let's format it pretty. So we'll do a right-click, source, format. That's a little too pretty. Not exactly what I wanted. Okay, I'm just gonna kind of manually fix these the way I want them. And this cluster here, I'm going to swipe and hit the tab key and indent those. It's a little more like my liking. And then I should break it up so I have a maximum of 2 on a line. Okay, so now I'm going to swipe these. Command C, Command S to save. And then I'll go over to my other tests. I've got my settings tabs test. This is also parameterized test. It has all these files here. I'm going to basically hit a return there and hit a return right here, and I'll swipe the middle and then hold the command key and hit the V, as in paste, and put in a list of all the different project apps and devices. The third test that I have at the moment is test cleanup, which is more or less not needed now, but well, it's going to be needed because these tests are running successfully somewhat, so they're putting a lot of data into the apps, so that'll run for quite a while, cleaning up all the apps, deleting all the projects from the apps as they run the automated tests. The 6 Plus also has a disadvantage. I have to wake it up from time to time so I can run the next test. Now these tests don't work unless I, one, save them, and then secondly, I could try to build them locally to make sure I haven't introduced any compiler errors. That's always a good idea. So the way to do that is, as I've done in my other videos, just go into this directory, not that directory, maybe this directory. Nope, not that directory either. This directory. And then I'll do a gradle clean test. I'll just compile it. I'm going to kill it as soon as it compiles. It's going to try to run the tests, but I don't want to have two tests running simultaneously. Okay, so we did get a compiler error. Actually, that's kind of odd. I seem to be a little confused right now about where my code is located. So let's just do an open with, or show in. You could show it in terminal. It'll open up a terminal session, and it'll show me where my source code is. Oh, okay, I see the problem. I was a little confused about my directory structure. So I want to be up 2 levels, down into my workspace, then into my Git, I think Get, right? Yeah, Get, then into my project workspace. I guess I have some duplicate directories that, just to confuse myself. Okay. And this is where I want to run my test command, gradle clean test. That's Gradle downloading from the Maven repository the jar files necessary to build the project. Okay, and that's trying to run. So I'm going to Control C on that and kill that. So it is compiling successfully. Very well, so then in order to get this to actually run, what I have to do is check this into my Get repository. So that's a right click on the project, team, and then a commit, and then I want to do a commit and pushes it out to the GitHub repository, where you can download a copy yourself at github.com/LarryRicker. You can get your copy of this project as well. So I'll put in here added JSON files to tests, and then commit. That pushes it out to the GitHub, and then when it executes inside, it's actually executing over here. Got too many windows here, so I'm just going to kill this one. Oh, let you see the app's actually running the automated tests. This window here is running Appium. I'm not running it tonight in Appium Desktop. I'm running it outside Appium Desktop by just typing the command Appium ampersand, and that runs Appium in the background. Although it could very well be running in the foreground here. And maybe the foreground or the background, but it's running here. And then this is the actual test executing on the device. And then we've got Eclipse here with our source code that we just checked in. And then let's go take a look at Jenkins. Jenkins is running, a Jenkins server is running on this MacBook Pro also, which is actually executing these tests. There's a lot going on. Sometimes it's a little too much for my Mac. To get to the Jenkins, you just type localhost. Port 8080. Now this isn't on the internet. This is behind my home firewall. So you can't actually get to this Jenkins server, but you can certainly follow one of my videos and set up a Jenkins server on your Mac. And it's running on an external hard drive, which I cover how to set that up in that video. And you just log in, username, password. And you can see the smoke test is executing here. It's continuing to execute. It's been running the whole time I was doing this video. Okay, it's starting up on a new device. And that device is the 6 Plus here. And scroll up in this window maybe. Oh, here it is. Good with Names Pro. So that's the app that's actually running right now. And if you go into Jenkins, you can click here. You can see that this is build number 95. You can touch here. You can see the changes. These are the comments from GitHub for each of the changes I made. Start of this video 12. Running multiple devices. I added the 6 Plus to the smoke test for some real apps, and then upgraded iPhone 5S from 10.3.2 to 10.3.3, and you can actually click on the details and actually see the code changes. You can do this without, you can just do this right on GitHub, but you can do it through Jenkins as well. It shows you the files that were, this plus means that they were added. And then you can actually click on them and look at the contents of those files and see what changed. And then for those files that changed, that were modified, it shows this was modified. There's a little diff mark over here. You can touch that. And that'll open up a diff to show you what was added. which would be those lines that I was showing you in the parameterized test, the actual parameters. Shows which ones were added, which ones were subtracted. You can see those changes. So the test is going to run, and that's how you run on multiple devices using Jenkins.